Happy Tuesday. Pastor Andreá here. I'm shooting our downtown Devo at Kaya Chocolate. It's a great chocolate. If you have not tried it, get down here. And today we'll look at our daily lectionary reading coming from 2 Samuel, beginning at chapter 11, verse 27 through chapter 12. I'm not going to read it all today, but I'm going to provide us with a reflective time together over these verses. So I invite you to, at your own time, to do it this day or later this week. And we are in a familiar passage, David and Bathsheba. We all know the story. And what we know about the story is that David sees Bathsheba bathing, and he sees something he likes, and he goes after it. He sends his man down there to get her, to bring back the palace, and something happens. They have intercourse together, and she gets pregnant, and he sends her back to her home. And he gets words from Bathsheba that she is pregnant, and the problem with this whole story is that Bathsheba is married. Bathsheba is brought from her house, and we don't know if she's on her own will. Probably not. So there's a whole lot of problems going with the story. We know David does. He is a king. He has his power. So he sees something he wants, gets it, and he eradicates the problem. Uriah, Bathsheba's husband. And the story tells us that David, to get rid of him, he plots. They go to war. He tells the army to retreat back so that Uriah is left and he dies. And Bathsheba, she mourns his death for an amount of days. And as soon as the mourning is over, he sends for her, and he makes Bathsheba his wife. And in the story, what we see here is a moment of David, again, over and over, abusing his power. And we are just like David. We all have a power in our lives, and you know what? We're in a culture. It's all about us. It's about me, what I want. It doesn't matter who I hurt, who I abuse to get what I want, because I matter. And this story reminds us that this was a problem in God's eyes, and what God does sends Nathan the prophet to remind David of this. And so Nathan goes to David and begins to remind him of the story. The story, he says here, there were two men in the same city, one rich, one poor. The rich man had a lot of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing, just one small lamb that he had brought. He raised the lamb, and it grew up with him and his children. He would eat from the food and drink from his cup, and even sleep in his arms, like it was his daughter. And now a traveler came to visit a rich man, but he wasn't willing to take anything from his own flock or herd to prepare for his guests who arrived. Instead, he takes the poor man's lamb, and he uses that. And David hears the story, and he is angry. He is angry that this rich man takes away from the poor man what he had. And he says, immediately, this man needs to be punished, even death. He said because he didn't have compassion. And Nathan hears and sees David's response. You know what Nathan says? That man is you. That man is you. And we're just like David. We are so consumed with ourselves and our own power that we don't even see our own problems. But we can call out the speck in somebody else's eye and say, you're wrong. You need to be punished. But this story reminds us that we need to take a look at ourselves. We are David. We're the one that's selected for who we want to have compassion for. But this story is requiring us, calling us to check our power and our abuses and be able to think about how our actions hurt others, and that we have compassion not for just ourselves, but everyone that's around us. And we do that with the power of the Holy Spirit. If we just shrink a little bit and let the Holy Spirit live in us, we won't be like David. We'll be able to live with everyone in peace, love, and harmony. That's what God is calling us today.